Hey, it's Dr. Nashley, your favorite tech evangelist at AWS, and I am here with one of my colleagues and one of the former interns for AWS AI, Emily. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. So we've been talking with a few people from your lab,
hmm
just asking like what got you interested in responsible AI work, like this topic in general.
I think it's a really nice intersection of kind of fine-grained technical work and then clear social impact. So we've had a lot of projects that have been kind of thinking about how we want to define different notions of ethical computing and then figuring out how to actually kind of implement and calculate the things we like. So I think it's a very nice balance.
Yeah, I'll say for sure. And some of your work that you've done, feel free how would you describe it to someone who is not necessarily in this field? But whether it's a paper that you've done, that you published that you want to talk about, or any topic like that.
Yeah, so I think two of the papers that I did as an Amazon intern, one of them was talking about kind of importing a different notion of fairness that's existed for quite a while in economics, Rawlsian fairness, into the computer science literature, minimax fairness. So I guess the idea is instead of always looking at trying to equalize kind of error rates between different populations, we want to make the worst off group as well off as possible. And that's a very intuitive notion that feels like it should be appropriate for a lot of kind of high stakes decisions. So we had a paper making an algorithm for that. And then I think the other thrust of work has been thinking about situations where there are sensitive attributes that we can't observe. So maybe I don't want to supply my socioeconomic status, or someone doesn't want to supply their gender. And kind of without that information, how can we still train algorithms that are considered fair?
Awesome. And we talked a little bit about some of that with some of your colleagues, and I think that's great work that not you don't see a lot of people working in that area, and especially taking those topics and the research and applying it to practical applications, specifically at AWS AI and then beyond in several different areas and different subject matter areas. And so, curious if you have any examples of applications for the word, either the min-max or the second topic in terms of the
proxy variables. Do you mean situations where we've seen it applied in real life, or situations where I could imagine it?
Either way, because I know some of it hasn't actually been applied.
Yeah. I mean, so the minimax fairness paper, I think people have. It's actually gotten a fair amount of kind of citations and attention in the academic literature. It's a nice definition to work with. I think that in terms of places where it would be useful, I like to use kind of healthcare applications. So if you want to if you want to train a model that is going to do well detecting tumors in men and women, or maybe like different racial groups, because there's good to have more than two groups here. You don't necessarily want to penalize one group if it's easier to detect tumors. So you want to just kind of, instead of doing, let's see if I can figure out how to phrase this. Instead of trying to equalize the error rates, you can just try to do better on the group that is harder to detect.
Like age group, for example.
Yeah.
Exactly. Love it. I think that those are very prominent areas, healthcare especially, where a lot of these topics come up. We was just had a conversation earlier about ethics in general, and ethics in healthcare being way more extensive than it is in some of the other areas. And so I think this directly contributes to how do we better approach those things across different groups and the different subgroups. And so how would you say you've done this work through AWS AI and ways that you've been able to contribute by being an intern on our team?
A nice thing about AWS is that there are the resources to do kind of work on with data sets or computing power that we wouldn't have as a grad student typically. So we've been able to do much kind of larger experimental simulations for our methods,
Nice.
which is useful. And a lot of it can be tricky in the theory world because a lot of the algorithms are just tested on very kind of small data sets with small computing power. So AWS gave us those resources. And then we just kind of have the, it's nice to take problems that are coming up in the real world and then figure out how to frame them in an academic context. So we got lots of really good ideas from people at Amazon, whether it was things that customers wanted or internally at Amazon. There was a need for some method. That's great.
Yeah. So where do you see yourself going beyond this topic in grad school, like after you graduate?
Yeah, I guess that's a big question.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It is.
Well, it's
I'm sorry. I
application.
know
No, it's
a
okay.
big
It's application season now, so we'll see where I end up. I'd like to
Nice,
keep doing
nice,
research, either
Okay.
like as a professor or in industry.
Yeah.
And I think there's still a lot of work to do in the algorithmic fairness
Mhm.
context, coming up with definitions, evaluating algorithms. It's a really exciting field. And I'm also quite interested in both the kind of the legal difficulties with these proxy variables, kind of balancing legal issues and practical issues.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be of great importance in the near future.
Yeah, and the trade-offs of those things too.
Mhm.
I think there's a whole nother realm of topics in that area too. So yeah, I think this is awesome. I think you've shown that there's a lot more work to be done.
Yeah.
And you all are you're at the cusp of it, which I think is great. And you're helping to peel back the onions, the layers of the onion, so that others can also get involved. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I just came and stole some of the students for these interviews, but they were very willing to help me get some of these on video. So thank you so much, Emily, and you all take care, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.